I'm Tfarita, and today we are dissecting the massive, hidden financial landmines of the entire American housing market. Picture a deeply disciplined 29-year-old. For 6 years, they have skipped vacations, driven a car with 140,000 miles on it, and banked every spare dollar to save an $84,000 down payment. The moment they sign the closing papers and post that obligatory photo with the keys, the psychological payoff hits. It feels like the ultimate marker of adulthood, the status of a homeowner. Then, 6 months later, reality walks through the front door. The furnace dies, demanding $8,400. The roof starts leaking, another $11,000. And the county reassesses the property, slapping them with a sudden $3,600 property tax hike. When you stack those sudden expenses against stagnant wages, the cultural narrative falls apart. Society has lied to you. The blind pursuit of a house, bought simply because it is the expected next step, often destroys a young person's financial freedom. This diagram breaks down the baseline math of the trap. The median home price in the United States right now is roughly $420,000. If you are disciplined and subtract your 20% down payment of $84,000, you are left holding a $336,000 mortgage at roughly a 7% interest rate. Look at what happens over the lifespan of that 30-year fixed loan. You don't just pay back the principal. You will hand the bank approximately $468,000 in pure interest. For the privilege of borrowing $336,000, you pay nearly $500,000 extra. This amortization chart shows exactly how the bank structures that extraction. During the first 10 years of the mortgage, less than 20% of your monthly payment goes toward owning the home. Over 80% goes straight to interest. You are effectively renting the house from the bank, but you carry all the liability. That liability brings us to what financial planners call the bleed.
To keep a home from literally falling apart, you have to budget 1 to 2% of its value every single year for basic maintenance. On a median home, that is a permanent, recurring cost of up to $8,400 annually. And houses do not care about your saving schedule. HVAC systems die, foundations crack, water heaters fail. A home is a decaying asset that requires a constant influx of cash just to maintain its baseline value. Then come the external threats. Local governments regularly reassess home values, causing property taxes to compound and climb. Simultaneously, escalating climate risks are causing homeowners' insurance premiums to skyrocket, with some regions becoming nearly uninsurable. Add it all up. When you combine interest, maintenance, property taxes, and insurance, the true annual cost of carrying a median home runs between $40,000 and $55,000. The base mortgage payment you see online is a deeply deceptive metric. The wealth extraction starts before you even get the keys. The real estate industrial complex takes an immediate cut at the closing table. Realtor commissions shave 6% off the transaction, while the bank tacks on another 2 to 5% in complex origination and closing fees. If you couldn't scrape together the full 20% down payment, you are hit with private mortgage insurance, or PMI. This is a punitive, recurring fee you pay entirely to protect the bank in case you default.
It offers you zero financial benefit. People often defend these costs by pointing to tax benefits, but since the standard deduction was raised, the vast majority of Americans no longer itemize, rendering the mortgage interest deduction useless for them. And if the home appreciates significantly, the IRS will still be waiting to extract a heavy capital gains tax when you eventually sell. So why do educated people eagerly sign these contracts? It comes down to a cognitive bias called loss aversion, heavily amplified by social stigma. Renting feels like failing. Buying a house is often less about mathematical optimization and more about purchasing an expensive social status signal. Buyers are also anchoring to the past. They remember their parents buying a suburban home for $90,000 and selling it for a fortune. They expect to replicate those massive returns, completely ignoring that their parents bought in an era of falling interest rates and rapid wage growth, conditions that simply do not exist today. By weaponizing that nostalgia and tying it to social pressure, the modern housing market operates as a highly efficient predator ecosystem. It is specifically engineered to extract middle-class wealth while convincing the buyer they are making a smart investment. To be clear, the 1% mindset is not strictly anti-homeownership. It is violently opposed to buying a house simply because society dictates it as the mandatory next step in adulthood.
To escape the trap, you must ignore the realtor's math and run your own total cost analysis. Calculate the true carrying costs of a home in your specific market, and compare that against the cost of renting an equivalent space, while diligently investing the difference. You should only sign a 30-year contract when you have absolute stability. That means you have a fully funded emergency reserve, income that doesn't rely on future raises to make the math work, and the certainty that you won't need to relocate for at least 5 to 7 years. This line chart illustrates the massive opportunity cost of tying up your capital. Historically, home equity appreciates at a slow 3 to 5% annually. By comparison, capital deployed into a diversified index fund tracking the S&P 500 historically averages roughly 10% per year. Your down payment is an investment, and it often works harder in the market than in your walls. We have to redefine what wealth actually looks like. In a volatile modern economy, power isn't necessarily a massive mortgage and a fixed address. True power is liquidity and geographic flexibility, the ability to pack up and move wherever new opportunities arise without paying massive financial penalties to offload a house. Do not let cultural guilt rush you into the biggest debt obligation of your life. The house can wait. Establishing a mathematically sound, highly liquid financial foundation cannot. I want to hear from you. Drop down in the comments and let me know your actual total cost of homeownership, taxes, maintenance, and all. If this breakdown made you rethink the traditional American dream, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real financial math. I'm Trivardita, and this is the 1% Money Mindset.